All right, let's talk about something really profound today. It's this idea of the unseen burdens we carry around, the weight you were never meant to carry.
So let me ask you this. Have you ever walked into a room and just felt the tension? Before anyone's even said a word? It's like this unspoken energy that you can almost taste in the air, but no one else seems to acknowledge it. If that sounds familiar, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
It's like you don't just hear what people are saying, you feel what's underneath the words. You pick up on that tiny shift in their tone, that little hesitation, or what a long silence really means. And yeah, maybe for most of your life you've been told, or maybe you've even told yourself, oh, I'm just being too sensitive, or I'm just too emotional.
But what if it's actually something else? What if those intense feelings you've been wrestling with weren't even yours to begin with? I mean, really think about that. This is the whole idea we're exploring. You haven't just been feeling your own emotions, you've been carrying everyone else's too.
So you might be wondering, how does this even happen? How does all this weight start to pile up? Well, here's the thing. This isn't some kind of flaw in your character. It's actually an adaptation. It started out as a way to stay safe, a kind of survival skill. You learned that if you could make sure everyone else felt okay, then you would be okay too. It just felt safer that way. And you can kind of see how this whole thing progresses over time. It almost always starts back in childhood, right? You learned how to read the room long before you ever learned how to read your own feelings. That skill turned into a habit, adjusting yourself, softening your edges, just staying quiet to keep the peace. But here's the critical part. That amazing awareness you have, without any guidance on how to handle it, it stops being a useful tool and just becomes a heavy weight. And eventually that weight becomes part of who you think you are.
And look at how this plays out. It's this really subtle, slow transformation where some of your best qualities, your greatest virtues, kind of tip over into being burdens. Being thoughtful turns into constant overthinking. Being kind becomes over-giving to the point of exhaustion. And being empathetic, which is such a beautiful thing, can actually lead to completely losing track of yourself and other people's stuff.
This really just hits right at the heart of it all. You learn that being needed felt safer than being known. Think about that. It was never really about just wanting to please people. It was about feeling safe. Because, let's be honest, there's a huge vulnerability in letting someone truly see you, all of you. It often felt so much safer to just be the one everyone relies on, to be indispensable. And of course, carrying all of this all the time, it comes with a cost. It's this quiet, hidden cost that creeps up on you. We're talking about a kind of exhaustion that's so deep, a full night's sleep doesn't even touch it. You know that feeling? The price you pay is, well, it's feeling like you're stretched paper thin all the time. Simple conversations can feel totally draining. You might get confused by why your own feelings are so intense. And little by little, your own needs, your own wants, even your own voice, they just start to get harder and harder to hear. And that brings us to the real conflict at the center of all this. You are an absolute expert at showing up for everyone else, right? You can anticipate what they need, you hold space for their feelings, you're amazing at it. But when it's your turn, when you need to show up for yourself, it can feel like you have no idea where to even start.
But then, something starts to shift. There's a turning point. And it's usually not some big, loud explosion. It's more like a quiet whisper of truth that you can't ignore anymore. It's that first little flicker of recognition where you just know something's not right here. It often boils down to one simple thought. Just this small, steady feeling that bubbles up from under all that exhaustion. The thought is, this isn't how it's supposed to feel. And that right there, that's the first crack in the armor. The first little break in this identity you've built. And it's so important to remember this. That moment of truth, that realization, it isn't there to shame you. It's there to free you. This isn't about looking back and judging yourself for how you've survived. It's about looking forward and seeing that there's another way to live. So that brings us to the very first and maybe the most crucial step. And spoiler alert, it is not about trying to fix anything right away. It's simply about seeing, just looking at the patterns, acknowledging the weight, and really seeing the ways you hold more than your share, and doing it clearly, honestly, and without a shred of judgment. Okay, so what does that actually look like? What does seeing mean in real life? Well, it all starts with a simple invitation, an invitation to just notice. Because that simple act of noticing, that's the quiet space where real, lasting change can finally start to happen. So let's start that journey right now. Just ask yourself, where in your life, at work, with your family, in your friendships,
Where have you been carrying more than your fair share?
And then, take a step back. Can you trace it back at all? When do you think you first learned that putting everyone else first was the safer bet?
Now, if you're being really, truly honest with yourself, right now, in this moment, where do you feel the most exhausted? Where is it hitting you the hardest?
Look, you don't need to have all the answers. That's not the point. For now, just sit with this one last thought. What would it actually feel like to put down even a tiny piece of that weight? Just for a moment, just imagine that feeling, that possibility. That is where this all begins.